Hi everybody, this is Shawna Odette from the Flying Cat Academy. Welcome to lesson number 24. This is a review lesson. Let's begin by setting up the table. You'll need your top 160 sight word list, the sight word study method instruction sheet, the student's word pack, and some blank cards for writing new sight words, a highlighter, some markers, and some pencils. For the short vowel drill, you'll need the teacher instruction sheet, the 5 short vowel keyword pictures, and the keyword sentence. For the phonemic awareness drill, you'll have the teacher instruction sheet and the colored tiles for the student. Then we come to the visual drill and the auditory drill. You'll need the instruction sheets and the card pack on which the student is currently working. Moving on to the syllable card drill, you'll have that all cut out in advance, and I do like to have some color to indicate the second syllable. Makes the drill easier to set up and easier for the student to do. Moving on, we'll have the magnetic letter tile drill for spelling and for reading. You'll need the cookie sheet with the magnetic letter tile spread in a rainbow shape for that one. Then we'll have the syllable card, syllable pounding instruction sheet, the new phoneme grapheme kinesthetic discovery instruction sheet. This would be a good lesson to introduce a new phoneme grapheme relationship if you have to do so, because this is a review lesson. You can check the core phonics survey to know if that's a good idea. And then we'll have the sheets that go with the lesson, including the single word sheet, the story, and the sentences for the writing section. The last thing that you're going to need is to set up your sliders. Once the student masters one of these close syllable exceptions, then you no longer have to have them do the slider. You can take that one out of the mix. And if they're not set up on the table today, you can just use the video portion of the lesson because I will provide that. Let's begin with the sight word study method. Student, you can take out your card pack now. I'd like you to read through each card. When you read a card correctly, give yourself a check mark on the side of the card. Then give the card back to the teacher, and it's the teacher's turn to read. The teacher reads the card, and the student writes it down. Student, when you write it correctly, you can give yourself a check in the other side of the card. If there is time, then you can introduce a new sight word teacher, and remember to have your discussion about which of those words have been mastered, and make sure that you remove the mastered ones from the pack. Let's do the short vowel drill. This is where you take out your keyword pictures. Student, you will take 2 fingers and trace the shape, saying the sound. So for the first one, apple, and then underline and say the ah. Do that as many times as your teacher says is necessary, and then say your keyword sentence, stretching out the vowel sounds as you do it. It's time for the phonemic awareness drill, so student, you'll need your colored tiles for this one. Your word is bind. Can you repeat that word? I might say, I will bind the skis together to keep them together. Can you make a sentence using the word bind? Okay, now I'd like you to make the word bind with your colored tiles. Tap each sound and then say the whole word. Okay, teacher's checking the work there. Student, if that's bind, I would like you to touch the b in bind. Can you change the b into a k? What's your new word? Tap it and say it. Did you get kind? If you did, that's right. Now find the k in kind. Change the k into a t. What's your new word? Not a real word. Tap it and say it. Did you get tined? Okay, now find the t in tined. Change the t into a er. What's your new word? Tap it and say it. Did you get rind? If you did, that's right. Find the d in rind. Can you touch it? Now take away the d, and what are you left with? Did you say rind? If you did, that's right. Now change the I sound in Rhine into an I. What's your new word? Did you say rin? If you did, that's right. Find the I in rin and change it to an Tap it and say it. What's your new word? Did you say run? If you did, that's right. Now find the in run. Change it to a s. What's your new word? Tap it and say it. Did you get sun? That's correct. Now find the in sun and change the into an ah. Tap it and say it. Did you get san? If you did, that's correct. Now let's turn that into a real word. Let's add a d onto the end of san. What's your new word? Tap it and say it. Did you get sand? If you did, that's correct. Good job. You can put your tiles away now. Let's do the visual drill. This requires the card pack. So take out your card pack. The teacher flashes the card and the student says the sound. So the student would say ing in this case. Then the teacher moves on to the next one. Teacher, do this for 6 to 8 and then come back to me. We'll use the card pack again for the auditory drill. This is where the teacher holds the card pack and the teacher says, student, your sound is Can you repeat that sound? Now I'd like you to write down the symbol for Once you finish, underline it and say the sound again. Then we check your work. How'd you do? Teacher, do this for about 6 to 8 cards and then come back to me. It's time for the syllable card drill. Your teacher has it all set up on the table for you. Student, you're going to read down the words in the left column and then read down the words in the right column. Then you'll make some nonsense words by reading across each row. Then it's time for you to take those words in the second column and unscramble them so that they make words when you put them together with the column 1 words. You'll notice that there's real words in both columns today. So these are called compound words when we add 2 real words together to make a bigger word. Remember, teacher, you'll be discussing the meanings of the words with your student and having the student put some of those words into sentences. Let's practice pounding out some syllables. Student, this is where you stretch out your arm and every time you hear a syllable, you're going to just tap your arm and one of your fingers shoots out. Remember that when we're listening for syllables, we're actually listening for vowel sounds. Your word is in. Can you pound that one? How many syllables are in? Did you say 1? If you did, that's correct. Try this one. Pound out fantastic. Did you pound 3 times? If you did, that's correct. And if you'd prefer, you can just put your hand under your chin. Every time you say the word and your chin drops and hits your hand, that's a syllable counted. How about conflicting? How many in that one? Did you say 3? If you did, that's right. Try this one. Swimming. How many syllables in that one? That one has 2. All right, let's practice our closed syllable exceptions that we've been working on. And we're going to use sliders to do that. Teacher, if you have the sliders all prepared, then you can do this with the student. And if not, then you can just keep the video going and I will lead you through it. Let's do the magnetic letter tile drill for reading. Student, you're going to need your magnetic letter board for this one. Do you have it? Okay. I'm going to tell you that your first sound is Can you repeat that sound? Now grab the correct tile for and pull it to the middle. Your next sound is going to be one of those closed syllable exceptions that we've been working on. Eind. Can you say that sound? Now what tiles make eind? Find them and pull them to the middle. Now tap and say the sounds, and then underline it and say the whole word. Did you say mind? If you did, that's correct. Can you use that in a sentence? I might say, I will use my mind. What would you say? Okay, let's try a new word. Student, your sound is Can you repeat that sound? Okay, find the tile for and pull it to the middle. The next sound is one of those closed syllable exceptions. Old. Can you repeat that? Okay, find the tiles for old and pull them to the middle. Now tap it and say the whole word. Did you get hold? If you did, that's correct. Now use it in a sentence. I might say, will you hold this flower for me? What would you say? Teacher, if you have time, then you can do the magnetic letter tile drill for one of the other sheets on the lesson plan there. And if not, then go on to the single word list and have the student read through the words, and then the student will read the story. When you finish all that, come back to me. We are moving into the writing portion of this lesson. So let's bring out that magnetic letter tile board again, and we'll do the magnetic letter tile drill for spelling. Student, your word is mild. Can you repeat that word? Now let's use it in a sentence. I might say, it's a mild day today. What's your sentence? All right, what's the first sound that you hear in mild? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. The second sound in mild is one of those closed syllable exceptions upon which we've been working. What is the second sound in mild that you hear? Find the tiles for that sound and bring them to the middle. Now tap the sounds and say them. Underline it and say the whole word. Okay, good. And you can put those tiles away and we'll try a new one. Your word is brink. Can you repeat that word? All right, let's try and use it in a sentence. Sometimes people talk about being on the brink of disaster. So you can say, I was on the brink of disaster, like the edge of disaster. Okay, what's your sentence? Now, what's the first sound that you hear in brink? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. What's the next sound that you hear in brink? Find the correct tile and pull it to the middle. And the last sound in brink is one of those closed syllable exceptions. Which one is it? Brink. What do you hear? Find the tiles and pull them to the middle. Now tap it and say it. And teacher, you can check the spelling. If you have time, you can do some more magnetic letter tile board words to practice spelling. And if not, then let's move on to tapping. So this is where you tap out each sound, saying each sound of the word, then grabbing the word and pulling it across and saying the whole word, and then you write it down. So you need some lined paper and a pencil for this one. Student, your word is clank. So tap out each sound and say the sounds. Grab it, say the whole word, clank. And then you write it down. I might say the bell went clank. Didn't ring very well. Okay, For the next word, you can trace it on a part of your body, might be your arm or your leg, and say the sounds as you trace it, and then write it down. Your word is hall. Can you repeat that word? I could say, I ran down the hall, and the teacher told me to don't run in the hall. Hall. Okay. Trace it and write it down. Teacher checks the work. For the last word, you can choose whether you're going to tap it or trace it. Your word is bang. So tap it or trace it, and then write it down. I might say the gun went bang. All right, the last part of the lesson is that the teacher will have you write some sentences. So teacher, read out the 3 sentences and let the student choose the 2 that will get written. And after a sentence is written, then please use CHOPS to check the work student. Before we go, let's just do a quick review of what we've been learning. We've been talking about these closed syllable exceptions. Student, can you either write down or use your letter tiles to make an example of a closed syllable exception? You can pick any one you want. Okay, and then tell your teacher why that's a closed syllable exception. What does it mean to be a closed syllable exception? Have a quick discussion about that. All right, so in a closed syllable exception, the vowel is making an unexpected sound because it's not quite like the apple, olive, itchy, up sounds that we've learned. Sometimes it's, blatantly making a long vowel sound, which is really unusual, or sometimes it's just a little bit messed up, like, an ong or ing. Yeah, so well done. That's the end of lesson 24. This is Shawna Odette from the Flying Cat Academy.